la la la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast. You know what day it is. Inner Wealth Podcast with David Liz. So manifest the greater this. And things all good cause I say it is. Invest in your inner wealth. Real generational wealth is mental health. It's an inside game, no toxicity. Let's talk and more listening. Ladies and gentlemen, and now introducing David McCullough, Elisabeth Holstra, host of the Inner Wealth Podcast. Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Inner Wealth Podcast with Dave and Liz.
What up, though?
What up, though? You know, man, for like in the beginning of my business journey, when people came to us, trauma was one of the biggest things that we saw people have an issue with. And that trauma basically had a major impact on people's sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And with working with people for all those years, I realized how much sleep was an issue with the major population. It wasn't
Right.
just because you were traumatized, it's just in general.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
Western culture is like, I'll sleep when I die.
Right.
Like work, don't sleep. Like sleep for suckers,
Yeah.
It's-
When did we start glorifying?
It's been
Not
recently.
sleeping.
It's been recently because let me see, Dr. Matthew let me see. Dr. Matthew Walker actually had mentioned he's a PhD, he's a sleep specialist, and he actually had mentioned back in the 1940s they had like a sleep study, and most people were getting 7.9 hours of sleep compared to nowadays where your average is 6.5 hours of sleep.
I did read about that from him, and he
Yeah.
also talked about in Japan they was getting
Right,
even
worse.
less than
right,
that.
it's worse. Yeah, exactly.
So why did he say why that was though?
I mean, it's probably I don't think he said why, but I mean it's kind of obvious. Like there's more stimulus, technology,
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then too, what are we talking about one of the major contributing factors to lack of sleep is what?
Blue light. There's blue light.
Yeah.
Blue light, like I guess it lowers your melatonin by 50%. Blue light.
But blue light is blue light is good. It's not like blue light is bad.
not
It's the
bad.
problem is
It's your circadian rhythm.
circadian rhythm,
yeah,
right.
yeah. It messes up your circadian rhythm after a certain specific time. You're not supposed to have that blue light exposure. And
do you know what the cutoff time was? Like it's like in the evening, right?
It's in the evening. I think it's just you follow the sun. So when the sun goes
Okay.
down, I wouldn't, they said to put like red light throughout your home and stop using fake light like after dark because it just messes up your circadian rhythm.
Yeah, and I've had blue blocking glasses for years.
Yeah.
And then they use those little blue blockers on your phones now.
Right.
The little tint.
Yeah, the tint. I have
Yeah.
that. I have that. I mean, it helps, but let me see. There was another study where impact 1 hour iPad reading versus 1 hour book reading. The iPad reading blunted melatonin release by 50% and delayed peak of melatonin by 3 hours. And that lasted for 2 days.
From 1 hour?
From 1 hour, right before you go to sleep. So think about that and your
Wow.
kids.
So what
kids
about your
these days.
TVs though? Because that's even worse.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the big screen TVs.
Yeah, all of it. That's just all blue light exposure.
1 hour?
1 hour. 1 hour.
Man.
So you got to think how jacked up we are these days. How jacked up these kids are
Right.
these days. Like,
So again, going back to we were talking about that's blue light,
yeah.
and then we're talking about nervous system imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
So was the blue light, does that imbalance your nervous system as well?
I think so because blue light, it spikes your cortisol, I believe.
So the brain, does the brain still go into that same protection mechanism? with light?
I'm not sure about that. I'm
Okay.
not sure about that.
You see what I'm trying to see if the
it
brain is
spikes,
still
right.
going into like sees that as a threat when it becomes too much. Probably not, but most of our clients were coming in, they're all traumatized, and that was throwing your nervous system off. So
Right.
you hear all these see all these commercials with how ways to improve sleep, which is take melatonin or
Mhm.
take this nighttime milky
Mixture.
type of drink
Yeah.
that's gonna help. And it's like
Yeah.
one of the things you can do is, one, cut out blue light.
Mm-hmm.
Two, which is not easy, is the rebalancing of the dysregulated nervous system.
Right.
You know,
right.
that to me was one of the biggest things, because when I first, I think it's 2007, that's when I was dealing with anxiety, panic attacks, and insomnia. I used to grind my teeth
Yeah.
in my sleep.
Yep.
I used to have the same reoccurring dream over and over that I was choking in my dream.
Mm.
Actually, it didn't just start off that I was choking. I would try to eat something.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't swallow it,
Mm-hmm.
and literally it would become like tar
Ooh.
in my mouth, and I'm like trying to spit it out, and I couldn't. It's a disgusting dream.
That was reoccurring?
Reoccurring.
Oh, wow.
I would wake up at times where my pillow would be soaked
Mm.
because I would literally be choking in my sleep.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I started doing the body work and rebalancing of my brain
Mm-hmm.
that one, I don't grind my teeth in my
Mhm.
sleep anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It still took some years to get past the choking
Mhm.
in my sleep,
Mm-hmm.
or I want to say choking, but the same reoccurring dream, which I found out
Yeah.
was that I really couldn't swallow. I couldn't stomach what was happening in my life. I had so much stored tension within my gut.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about how the body bears the burden and holds on to memories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was. I just was shut down emotionally, mentally, emotionally. I couldn't really speak my truth.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I started doing body work, work with people like Esther McCormick, who really helped me doing acupuncture, acupressure, and then trauma release exercises. Those things helped me. In my sleep, though, man, like I sleep well. If I go through multiple nights without good sleep, I'm tripping.
Yeah, something's wrong. Well, you know
I'm
what's
not
crazy?
happy.
Like, they don't even teach you that stuff. I remember, because I grind my teeth bad.
Mm.
And I remember my dentist, like, I've grinded my teeth since I was, like, young. Like, real young. And my dentist never told me, like, it was just a symptom of sleep. You know, they don't teach you, oh, it could be because you have excess energy in your body.
Yeah.
You have anxiety. Oh, you have these things that you've never gotten
No.
over. They don't ever tell you that.
Because they always want to look at the symptom of it.
Yeah.
Like so if they always only look at the symptom,
Mhm.
the solution is already only partial.
Right.
So what was the solution?
Man.
A bite guard?
Right.
Like
right.
that's
That's
not
what they gave me.
that's
That
not
was
the
what they gave me.
solution.
Exactly.
That's a quick fix.
Right.
And that can be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But you
But
don't
that-
want to wear a bite guard for the rest of your life.
No, and can you imagine the amount of pressure that puts on your jaw too? Like, it can't be good to have.
Right.
They cover things up with band-aids. The symptoms up with band-aids. They never get to the root issue.
So think about grinding the teeth.
Yeah.
Right? You had the issue of grinding the teeth. I had an issue of grinding teeth.
Mm-hmm.
We both were in freeze response
Mm-hmm.
where we stuffed our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so where do your emotions typically come out of?
Oh man, right.
Your mouth.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're grinding, it's because you really want to say and you're holding back, you're clenching. I
Yeah.
can't speak what I want
Yeah.
to say, right?
Yep.
And you have to dissipate that energy out of the whole body,
Mm-hmm.
whole nervous system,
Right.
but out of the jaws too.
Out of the jaws, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yo, like I used to grind and clench so bad, I've even cracked teeth.
Wow.
That's how bad.
Wow.
And it's been. They told me that I have the back teeth of like a 60-year-old lady. That's how bad I used to grind.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
You filed them things down.
Yeah,
by
all
grinding.
the way down, and it was so crazy because I was so young when it started.
Did they grow back though?
No.
Did they get better?
No, they're just flat in the back.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, it's just
wow,
it's
it's
got
just
some old
flat in
lady
the back.
teeth. I
Like,
got old lady
I
teeth
mean, you
in the
chew
back.
like you chewing on with tables.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, just smacking on.
But that's so sad now that I think about myself as a child, you know, because that all it is, and I've worked and I started body work and I've noticed my like grinding and clenching.
Yeah.
It's dissipated. It's not as bad
Yeah.
anymore at
I
all.
remember just 6 months ago we had this conversation
Mhm.
about the grind, and I was like, really?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, we've done a lot of work, and I'm thinking
Mhm.
you've done a lot of work. Of course, things like brain training, that's helpful. But
Yeah.
again, when we talk about issues in
Man.
the tissues, you
Right,
got to
the
get that
body.
out the body.
Exactly.
So it wasn't until you start really doing a body work
Body work.
So how much would you say that dissipated though?
Yo, I don't think I even really grind anymore. I mean, I might wake up occasionally now and then wake up with like, clenched mouth. But I know I just, people that chew on their mouth and their lips and stuff too. Like I do that a lot, but that's dissipated as well.
Yeah.
After doing body work. But I don't know. It's just I think I had some abuse when I was a really really young kid, and that's I think where it came out. It came out through sleeping, because I remember I just used to get these horrible, horrible nightmares just like you.
Yeah.
And people just think, oh, well, I'm just having a nightmare. It's just a bad
No.
dream. No. You're
No.
trying to process something.
So what in going into sleep cycles, when you go into REM, what does that do?
That's dreaming. So when you're in REM sleep, you're actively processing and you're dreaming in REM, rapid eye movement.
So that's processing actually the thing that happened during the day.
Yeah.
So when you don't get it to REM, what's happening?
Man, I don't even. I think it was on that same podcast that I was listening to with Dr. Matthew, and they were saying that if you don't get REM sleep, like during the day, sometimes you'll daze off and your body will go into that REM because you need it. It's like
With
your
eyes
brain,
open?
your brain will switch into that REM because you need to have that rapid eye movement to be able to process things.
Yeah.
Like I can tell too. Last night I got about 20 minutes of REM, which is nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And I can feel it.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to get, let me see here.
Was
You're
it
supposed to
averaging
get,
an hour to 2 hours, right?
well, it depends how long you sleep. You're supposed to get
Right.
deep sleep, 25 to 30%, REM sleep, 20 to 25%, and light sleep, 45 to 50%. So it depends how long you're sleeping. But last night, I think I slept, 6 hours, and 20 minutes of REM is nothing. And I can just feel my processing is a little slower. My word recollection is a little bit,
Yeah.
And that always happens when I don't get into a lot of REM sleep.
So we can even talk about sleep cycles even further, but a lot of times when the clients would come to us, when we first were, when we had Neuro Fitness Center, I was doing brain mapping. Everybody would come in and they would swear they didn't have sleep issues because they felt like they closed their eyes
Right.
and they woke up.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so I always ask people 3 questions about sleep. I say, you got sleep issues? And immediately they want to go into, no, I sleep well. And then I'll ask them, how long does it take you to fall asleep? Do you stay asleep? Do you wake rested?
Right.
And if you can't answer yes to all 3 of those,
Yeah.
you have sleep issues.
Right.
People taking an hour, like I would have clients
Ooh.
tell me, it take me about an hour, 2 hours to fall asleep. I'm like, wow, an
Mm.
hour to 2 hours?
Yeah, that's
I think anywhere between, and then this is not me coming from a study, this is just from my own personal experience and working with clients, 5 to 15 minutes is enough to fall asleep.
Oh, 15 at the long end. The long end.
Yeah, that's long end.
Yeah. And I used to have issues sleeping. Like I had terrible insomnia. Like terrible since I was a teenager up into my 20s. Honestly, until recently.
Yeah.
And now
So
I
how
fall
did you
asleep within
mitigate with it though?
5 minutes. So I had like terrible insomnia. When I was 19, my dad died and I had really, really terrible, like I couldn't sleep after that. So they prescribed me Ambien. And so I took that for a little while, which is terrible. I would not recommend Ambien. I don't even know. I was a teenager. They throwing me these sleeping pills, and I was definitely abusing them mugs. But but no, I stayed on that for a little bit, and then throughout my 20s and even early 30s, like I used to smoke weed so I could fall asleep. And that really, really helped me actually to fall asleep. But what I didn't know is that
Jacked up
THC,
your REM, right?
yeah, THC inhibits REM sleep. So I was not dreaming anymore. But I didn't even really want to dream anymore because I had such bad night terrors and nightmares, just where I wake up screaming and punching and just crazy.
Yeah, and people again don't associate those dreams with anything that's going on with their life. They just think that is just random. It's the
Right.
body trying to really process.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Process through
Yeah.
what it's dealing with. And it's
Mhm.
trying to let you know something. So when I wake up and I notice those dreams I have, I'm always like processing like really
Right.
what was really happening in those dreams.
Right.
You know what?
Hmm.
For the first time, like I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago,
Yeah.
I had a dream where I was eating waffles
Uh-huh.
and the waffles tasted amazing.
Mhm.
And I was swallowing the waffles and
Yeah.
it didn't get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I know that.
Growth,
And
right.
I was like, wow, normally I thought about it later in the day and that came to my memory. And I was like, wow, I tasted in my dream. It tasted good and I
Yeah.
swallowed, I digested.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's a big change from years ago when I'm like choking
Right.
and
Right.
can't like
Yeah.
I can't digest. I can't
Man,
stomach it, you know?
that's crazy how like you see the process of trauma and
Mm,
healing from your trauma and you can see it in every single avenue of your life,
yeah.
even through your dreams,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't grind my teeth as much hardly ever. And it takes me literally 5 minutes to fall asleep.
During this pandemic, I would have like a lot of anxiety about my parents passing away. Remember I talked to you about that,
Yeah.
and it kept happening.
Mm.
And I just one night, it came to me. It was like, just Google how many people have this.
Mm-hmm.
This is a real, and it's not just during the pandemic. This is a reoccurring theme for people. Is the
Yeah.
loss of their
Oh
parents, right?
yeah.
And so but the pandemic brought that on even stronger because what
Right.
I'm scrolling through social media and I'm seeing what
Everybody
I'm
death.
seeing people that I know parents pass away, my contemporaries, my friends, and
Yeah.
I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
So we can't think that the things that we see in life that is just water under a bridge, like it
Right.
just don't affect us.
Oh
Your
my
body and
everything.
your brain is
It's
taking
a
everything
record
in.
of everything.
Right. This
Everything.
is like one big virtual reality soup,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything that's coming through here,
Yeah.
it's in there.
I know. And even if you don't process that,
Right.
and it's unconscious still in there.
Yeah.
So all the death when you're scrolling, even if you don't process, hey, I see that person just died.
Yeah.
You even go through it so fast, but
Yeah.
it's still
My
in there.
brain immediately makes a connection between their parents dying and my parents dying.
Yep.
It immediately makes that
Yeah.
connection. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh no, man.
Mm-mm.
This thing is powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and this thing is not to be taken for lightly.
Right.
And what is seeing, what
Yeah.
is hearing, what is
Mhm.
smelling,
Yeah.
because the brain is one big machine,
Right.
learning machine, and it's
Right.
taking
Processing
everything
machine.
in.
Yes.
The
Exactly.
question is, how conscious are you aware of that?
Mhm.
And if you don't get into good sleep cycles, guess what?
Man.
It's
It's
stuck.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad, and you can feel it. Like if I don't get good sleep, if I didn't get any REM last night, I probably couldn't even record a podcast today
Wow.
because my brain is just it'll shut down. You don't
Right.
work at good function when you don't get good sleep. Like
But doesn't it build too? Like if you had consecutive nights of not that good
yeah.
REM, and you
Yeah.
have one, let's say if you had great nights of consecutive REM and you have one night of poor, you would
It's not
probably
as
be
bad.
fresher, right?
Yep. I mean, it probably builds over time.
hmm
It builds over time, but I mean,
Is
it's
there
just
such thing as I maybe seen this, and maybe you have too, like a sleep bank?
sleep bank.
Yeah, because people
Is it an
people
app?
think no, people think this that you've heard it when you're younger. Like if let's say if you stayed up 24 hours
Uh-huh.
and you think, well, I'm asleep for the next 48. You think that's gonna add to your sleep
Oh
bank.
yeah,
That's gonna
yeah.
be to make up for the 24 hours that you didn't sleep. And it's like,
I
I don't
don't think
think
it
it
really
works like
works
that.
like
But the
that.
BioStrap, so BioStrap is a wearable technology that we use, and that's another thing we need to talk about because you talk about how long you got REM sleep. Like,
yeah.
how did you know that?
Right,
Like,
right.
it's
Yeah.
because we measure our sleep, we
Right.
track our sleep,
Yeah.
and I'm not obsessive about it, but we do track our sleep. But
I am.
yeah, because you really
Yeah.
need to hack it.
Yeah.
When you start sleeping well more often,
Oh
you
my
can
gosh.
kind of dial back and not be
Yeah.
as obsessive about it.
Mm-hmm.
But BioStrap uses some type of sleep bank terminology, debt score, sleep debt score.
Oh.
So I don't think so it's not a surplus. It's definitely a deficit of
Yeah.
going into more sleep debt
Mm-hmm.
because you're not getting at what you need.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you don't get good sleep, your HRV isn't good. I mean, you're just not recovered.
You're not recovering.
You're not recovered.
Really, that's the basis of sleep, right?
Yeah.
Your body
exactly.
recovers.
Detoxification from your brain and body. That's
So
where it happens.
The
in your sleep.
glial cells,
Lymphatic
cells in your
system.
brain.
And your brain detoxes while you sleep. And if you don't get a good detox in your brain while you
Your
sleep,
brain.
think about your toxicity.
Calcification.
The toxicity just
Yeah.
ugh.
They were linking that. They would start to link and correlate that, scientists, to Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's and I think dementia as well.
Yep.
What makes sense.
Yep, exactly. I mean, you have a surplus of toxicity in your brain. Of course, that's going to cause all type of issues down the line.
Yeah.
And even now, you can see it in
Like
people.
mood, memory, duh.
Yeah. I mean, when you don't get good sleep, you're very quick to react too. You're not as conscious, and people aren't even really conscious. So it's like
There was a and you can maybe try to even pull this up. I saw this on 60 Minutes years ago. They had a whole episode called The Science of Sleep or something like that on 60 Minutes. And they took a certain amount of people and they deprived them of sleep for like 24 hours. And by the time they did that, these people had markers of prediabetes because of just sleep deprivation.
yeah. Oh, and it'll age you really, really fast too. Okay, here, 60 Minutes Science of Sleep.
Yeah, so people can go look that up. And so, Dave Asprey on that one podcast, he was talking about less sleep lowers your or high. It's basically lowers your mortality rate. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like it's duh, right? Like,
Well, they had a study with rats that they did,
mm,
and they sleep deprived the rats, and all the rats died when they didn't sleep.
yeah,
So there's certain things that you need in this world: food, water, oxygen, and
and
sleep.
sleep.
And if you
Yeah,
don't get any four of those, you're gonna die.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's just it. But the interesting thing with that study, they said, the rats that died, like, well, they all ended up dying from sleep, but then
From
they
lack of
inhibited
sleep.
from lack of sleep, from
Mm.
zero sleep. They all ended up dying.
So they had
They stopped
it's
them from sleeping, which is kind of torturous. And
yeah.
it's
Well, they
like,
said they were saying too they weren't repeating that study. That was like
right,
that.
because it was torture.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
was mean at that point.
Right.
Dang. But they said they inhibited REM sleep, and
Mm.
then in one group, and then they let the other rats, like, they let them have sleep, and then the rat group that didn't have REM died a lot quicker than the rat group that had REM sleep. So they just
Mm.
did a sleep study on these rats, but the rats, they died almost as quick as complete deprivation of sleep when they didn't have REM.
And you know what the interesting thing about that study? Of course, we are not rats,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
So, but they always do that because they have a nervous system, right?
Right.
But they don't have the same amount of stimulus that we have,
Oh my gosh. Right.
right?
Right.
And then, too, they're not even talking about what was in the study. Did they have stressors in the study?
Right.
Or they
Right.
just
Yeah.
deprived them of sleep,
Yeah.
which is a stress in itself. But
Right.
what about the stressors and the traumas
Mm-hmm.
and the constant stimulus in society?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're literally like,
I mean, we're killing
it's
ourselves.
self-destruction.
We are. I mean, we should
Mm.
live until 120. That's our biological age. We should live
Mm.
until 120. I think our average age now is like, what, 70?
Wow.
70?
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
But sleep until you die, right?
Well, again, we go back
I'm not gonna
into
sleep until I die.
so we talk about trauma. We talk about that a lot because that's one of the biggest things that throws your nervous system off, and you're not going to be able to sleep if you're stuck in fight or flight
Right.
response or
Right.
freeze.
Oh no.
Freeze response,
Mm-mm.
you may oversleep. And they
Yeah.
also showed a correlation
Oh,
between
yeah.
oversleeping
Yeah, they said
and
if
how
you
that.
sleep more than 9 hours, your mortality
Tell you.
rate increases
Yep.
a lot if you sleep over 9 hours.
So
there's
it's
like a
it's
little
it's
sweet
the
spot.
same thing. It's just
Yeah,
about balance.
balance,
Oversleeping, undersleeping,
right,
you're gonna have an issue,
right,
right?
either
You
way.
don't. Do you really need a study to understand that?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I didn't even need to go read all that data to
Mm-mm.
know that's what that
Mm-mm.
is. And
It's just, I mean, Western culture though, it's just, it's sad, really. Like, the mentality is like hustle, hustle, hustle. I'll sleep when I die.
but all ancient texts talk about everything in moderation.
Mm-hmm. So
Like,
why? I don't know. We're so sped up. That's what it is.
and
We're
so
so
we're
sped up.
and the thing where we're sped up at because all of your feelings, emotions are not outside of you.
Mhm.
You're only sped up in one place, where internally.
Internally, yeah,
Right.
right.
So we can
Right.
reverse. They're talking about now. Oh, they're coming out with the studies about reversing aging. I'm like,
Mm.
well, yes. If I wear the same pair of shoes every day, I'm gonna wear down those shoes
Right,
more if I wear them every other week.
right. Yeah.
That's just the laws of thermodynamics,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Mm-hmm.
more you use something, entropy is happening more and
Right,
more and more and more and
right.
more.
Right, exactly.
So the more you use, so even with working out, like people would put these studies up about working out and how it relieves stress.
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you what is considered a healthy level of working out.
Yeah.
People are overworking out.
Overworking out, right.
I've worked with people for years. CrossFitters
Mm.
come in, sleep is shit.
Yeah.
Adrenaline, man, like their adrenals are smoked.
Mm.
Women lost their periods.
Yeah.
You're
not recovering.
cortisol, all that is just, and you're not recovering, and you're going to go do the same
Again,
workout
right.
the next day, but it's not the same workout because guess what? Within competitive lifting, which CrossFit is, and this is not a attack on CrossFit, just look at it for common sense.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do high intense workouts every day when you're competing,
Yeah.
and then you don't sleep at night and think that you're going to be healthy.
Mm-mm.
So look at all these physical therapy places that's popped up.
Mm-hmm.
This is from overactive nervous systems and lack of sleep.
Yeah, and over toxic burden.
Over toxic burden. The whole
Yeah.
system is just, it's a cascade effect, right, on all of it.
Dr. Jake was talking about that. He said that he's a chiropractor
Mm.
and he has 18-year-olds with arthritis.
Yeah.
18-year-olds with
Yeah.
arthritis.
Right.
Like, what are we doing?
Well, so when I was talking about one of the main contributors to lack of sleep, obviously trauma, blue light. Other one, not being grounded.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, remember you're our friend Josie. You know, she's like, "Why I don't want to put them on because the patches cuz I get so tired." It's
We're
like
talking about grounding patches that we
grounding
use,
patches.
and so
Right.
when you put the grounding patches on, she would feel like she would feel tired,
Tired.
sleepy.
Right,
Why?
sleepy.
Because now your
Your
body's
body is starting to go
see
into
her see
parasympathetic.
parasympathetic,
Yeah.
blood flow increases,
Mhm.
lymphatic
Mhm.
increases,
Right.
right?
Right.
The flow.
The flow.
It's
Right.
all about flow.
Right.
If you have a issue with not enough flow or
Mhm.
too much flow,
Mhm. I was just going
blood
to
clots
right.
versus high blood pressure,
Yep.
that's all about your body
Mhm.
and its state that it's in. And then
Right.
again, you're not sleeping to recover.
Right.
I sleep when I die,
Yeah.
you're gonna die a lot sooner.
Yeah. A lot
And you see a
sooner.
lot of people, like I'm 41.
Mm.
I don't look like I'm 41.
Mhm. Mm-mm.
You know?
Yeah.
I've taken naps since I was a
I
kid.
know you did tell me that. I'm like, I can never take
But
naps,
guess
but
what? Yeah, go ahead, because they already know what you was gonna say. Go ahead
no,
and share that.
I never have taken naps my whole life. Never taken naps, but recently, probably within the last, I don't know, not even like,
Man,
probably the last
like 2
like,
months.
yeah, I take some naps now.
So what happened for you to start to be able to take them naps? If you won't mind sharing that.
I quit smoking weed. I quit smoking weed. So, you know,
It's amazing how quick your body adapted to that. Like,
yeah.
I know that was tough though, but
Oh
continue.
my God, it was like the hardest thing ever. I love weed. But anywho, yeah, no, I mean, I think my body regulated. I started getting normal sleep now,
Mm.
because I wasn't getting high REM. I mean, I think the highest REM, I would look at my sleep scores and I wear an Aura ring. So the Aura ring is just a simple little ring that you wear to bed, but or all the time. But I would look at my sleep scores while I was smoking weed, and my REM sleep would be in between like 10 minutes and maybe 40 minutes a night, which was it's not good. That's
Mm.
not good. But it would be on the lower end of like 10 to 30 minutes for 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and then like maybe the fifth or sixth day it'd spike up to 45 minutes REM or something. And after that day, I would feel amazing the next
Yeah.
day. Oh my gosh, I'd be like,
You
wow,
know,
whole
you said
brand new
something to
person.
me one day, and you was like, I didn't know my life can feel this good.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was like, that's because you're actually starting to rest and recover
right.
and feel versus
Mhm.
suppress.
Right.
I didn't know my life could feel this good
Yeah,
because
yeah,
everything you were feeling before was just suppressed emotion.
right,
Well, that
right.
has to feel crappy,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, yeah, I suppressed emotion for a long time, and now I stopped having those night terrors when I was smoking weed because I
Mm,
wouldn't have REM sleep, so I'd just be a dead like, I wouldn't even move.
mm,
And now that I quit smoking, my bad dreams are coming back though, so I know I have
yeah.
more to process.
Process.
I
Yeah.
know I have more to process, and that's just part of the work though, in which I'm willing
Yeah.
to dive into, but.
So our clients, when they used to first come in and we would brain train them, the first thing they would come back, they would next day, not even next day, next few days, they would be like, I'm
Slept.
dreaming.
Yeah.
And I would always say, congratulations.
Yeah.
Welcome back to humanity.
Right, right. That's what they always say. I slept so good. I slept
Mhm.
like a rock last night. I
Yeah.
was late for work because I slept through my alarm.
So
It's always.
Kale, one of our clients who came up from the Bahamas, and I
Mm.
shared this story before. She came up from the Bahamas, and I'll share her story because she's given me permission to share it, so not oversharing. But
Mhm.
she came up from the Bahamas. She had her boyfriend had died in a car crash years ago, and that's traumatic, right?
Yeah,
And she was in that traumatic state for some years. So she came up to Inception. She spent 2 weeks up here,
Mm-hmm.
and she did a circuit every day.
Yeah, hour long, right? Per.
Yeah, she did
yeah.
more than the recommended dosage of even 90 minutes. I
Yeah.
even told her, she was in my inbox and she was like, I'm gonna do 30 sessions. And I was like, wait, what? I'm like,
I think
that's
she
too
did
much.
that, though.
That's too much. That's too fast. But I'm like, if that's what you feel you need to do,
Yeah.
then I'm not a doctor. It's not like this is some type of prescription. Like
Right.
you're not gonna die. You may be overwhelmed with some emotions that
Yeah.
surface, but you're not gonna die.
Right, right.
You're not gonna be harmed.
Yeah.
So she came up and she did the circuits. And I would say probably by the second, third day,
Mm-hmm.
you like Haneen was calling me. That Haneen works with us at Inception. She's one of our inner fitness trainers. She's called me. She's like, Kale missed her appointment,
Mm-hmm.
and because she was from the Bahamas and we up in Detroit, so I'm like calling her like, I'm thinking somebody done abducted this girl
Oh,
from the
man.
Bahamas or something. So I called Kale. I say, what's going on, Kale? I'm so sorry. I overslept.
Wow.
And I was like, it's all right,
Yeah.
because you finally are getting into REM sleep and
Right.
your body
Deep
is finally
sleep,
recovered.
yeah.
It happened twice, though. It
Wow.
happened 2 days.
Yeah.
But
That's.
she's like, I'm just so tired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because your body's now saying, what?
What? Right.
We finally get to rest?
Right. Right. From being in freaking sympathetic fight or flight.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight nonstop.
But I don't think she was in sympathetic. I think she was more in freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, think about death.
Yeah.
Right? You're not really going into fight or flight.
Yeah,
That's a
no,
sense of
yeah.
helplessness.
Yeah. Right.
You know. So
Right.
so yeah, she and
Yeah.
ever since then, Kale, totally different person.
Oh yeah, yeah. They said that she said that when she went back to the islands that everyone was like, oh, did they drug you? Did they
Yeah, the
put you on
psychiatrist.
drugs? Yeah.
The psychiatrist asked her, did we
Yeah.
put her on drugs?
Yeah.
And she asked me, she said she thought that we literally drugged her.
Oh man.
The first time I ever brain trained,
Yeah.
I said, damn, this is my body naturally feeling like this without being drugged. I was
Yeah.
blown away.
Yeah.
And I had used, and I talk about this on episode 1, I had used other technologies before that brought a sense of relaxation. This was a whole different animal.
Yeah.
So then that's just one technology. You add in our whole circuit
Mhm.
and floating.
Oh yeah, floating. Oh my gosh. Every time I float, even when I was smoking weed,
Mm.
when I would float that night, I would get 2 hours deep,
Of
an
REM
hour
sleep?
and a half REM.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
2 hours of deep
2
sleep.
hours of deep sleep, and then an hour and a half of REM. I would always have crazy sleep, and when I would, but that, you know what that shows me? Deficiency in magnesium.
Magnesium.
Yeah, and that's one thing that everybody, you know, most American people are deficient in magnesium because
Yeah.
you cannot get it from your food anymore. Like
Yeah.
it's almost impossible.
You know, the saying is it's 80%, and
Yeah.
it's all over the place, but
Right.
it's over 50% for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're not getting
and-
it from the food source.
Yeah, exactly.
And then too, magnesium is the anti-stress mineral. So
Mhm,
if a population that 70 to 90% of doctors' visits are due to stress-related illnesses,
yeah,
then what are you burning through?
exactly.
You're burning through
Resource-
magnesium.
Right. All your resources. all
Over
your
like
resources.
300 enzymatic functions
Mhm,
that
mhm.
magnesium,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
plays a part in,
Yo,
and
ever
you're
since-
burning through it.
Ever since I started taking magnesium lactate, that's what it is. Magnesium lactate. My sleep has been bomb.
Yeah, specifically say magnesium lactate because
Yeah.
we've measured our magnesium levels. I
Mhm.
was using a certain company where we were testing our magnesiums,
Yep.
and I was taking somebody's magnesium
Yep.
that was like, oh, this is the great nanoparticle
I know.
magnesium,
It's like
and I looked
no.
at my magnesium levels and I was
Never
deficient.
changed. Right.
The moment I changed to magnesium lactate,
Mm-hmm.
that I went and looked at, I mean, it was like 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
My magnesium levels was high.
Yep.
As it, man,
And you
I
could
felt,
feel the
I
difference.
felt amazing.
You could feel the
Yeah.
difference. You could
Yeah.
feel it. So I mean, even for people out there, just try it. Just try to take a magnesium supplement at night. Right before you go to bed, and see how different your sleep feels.
And you need to be doing it regardless if you have sleep issues. You
Yeah.
need to be taking
Right.
magnesium.
Right, exactly. It's very, very, very important for your body to have sufficient
Right.
levels of magnesium. I mean, it'll help your stress levels,
Yeah.
depression levels.
I mean, because you can't float every day. I floated every day before for 30 days straight, and yeah, that was intense.
Yeah.
But I had this one thing happen to me from floating. My when we first got, we're gonna talk about how the body still absorbs these things, and when we listen to things, how the body takes that in, and really is like almost like a Trojan horse. One specific scenario where when we first had the float pod, we were getting up and running. I was having troubles with the heater. The heater wouldn't show the accurate temperature on there. And then, we still got it set properly, right? And the guy who was working with us to help us fix it was like, yeah, you should be all set to go, but you need this other part to, have it show up accurately. But he's like, but you'll be good, whatever. And my dad saw that, and all he said was, man, don't get into that float tank, because a guy said something about, man, you can burn yourself if you not careful, whatever. And my dad took that. He absorbed that statement from the guy, right?
Yeah.
Put that belief on me, said, hey man, don't get into that float tank until you get that part because da 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 da, right? And this was me getting the float tank up for the first day.
Oh man.
What come on now, you
Oh
know
man.
me.
Yeah.
What was I gonna do?
Yeah. Just jump in there.
I was gonna do it anyway,
Yeah.
right? And so it's 11:30 at night.
Immediately.
It's 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
I'm about to float for the first time. I float for the first time. I get out of the float tank. Fine, first of all, obviously
Uh-huh.
nothing happened to me.
Yeah.
I get out of the float tank, and then my mom calls me. It's like 3 or 4 missed calls from my mom and my dad. And so I call my mom and say, "What's going on?" "Oh, your dad was worried because, he was telling me you shouldn't get into the float tank or something. So you like burn your face or something." Like, I don't know. It was
Oh man.
something crazy
Yeah.
description. I'm like, I'm fine. And this is when I lived down the hall,
Yeah.
right down the
Yeah.
hall
Yeah.
from the float area, from my business. And so that got in me.
Mm-hmm.
And for like almost a month or two, I would have dreams about like something being wrong with the float tank.
Oh
Like, and
man.
that um something bad was happening with the float tank.
Yeah.
I would literally sleepwalk down the hallway,
Dang.
unlock the door, go into the back of the float tank, start looking at the temperature gauge, and I would be sitting there and I would literally catch myself. I say, man,
Dang.
what am I doing?
Dang.
That happened numerous times.
Wow.
I used to sleepwalk.
Yeah, I know. I think yeah.
Yeah, I used to
I remember
sleepwalk.
you called me this one
Yeah, I did.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
Don't-
again, the body,
Yeah.
I am not conscious.
Right.
People
Where's
sleepwalk
the
when they walk
consciousness?
outside and drive cars.
I know. Where does your consciousness go?
It's like I'm in a daze.
Man, that's
I
deep.
literally got out of the bed, walked down the hallway, and this happened numerous of times where I was like, you know what? And then I would have dreams with like in my dreams something would be wrong with the float tank, water be dripping or
Mm.
something like that,
Yeah.
or one time I had a dream that I burned.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I had that dream and I was tired of having that dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, so I got into the float tank, and if you know anything about floating isolation tanks, John C. Lilly talked about metaprogramming and
Mhm.
being able to reprogram
Program.
the subconscious,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I was injected with a Trojan horse virus, really,
Yeah.
of somebody else's belief.
Right.
So
Right.
I got into the float tank,
Mhm.
and when I wait about 30 minutes because it takes you about 20, 30 minutes to get into that meditative place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went there, and I didn't have this consciousness at this point, mind you,
Mhm.
that I'm
Mhm.
telling you.
Yeah.
So I went there and I said, "What is these dreams about?" And instantly I had the thought of what his fear was.
Mm.
And I said to myself, "That's not my fear."
Mm.
I released that. I let that go.
Mm.
I didn't have the dream
Man,
anymore
that's so
after that.
powerful.
It was gone.
That's powerful.
Your subconscious mind
Dang.
is like a hard drive. It's like a
Yeah.
little mini drive,
Yeah.
right? That you can
Mhm.
go on there, look through the files,
Mhm.
and delete.
Mhm.
You
Oh,
know.
that's serious. That's serious. Man, like I remember well, I don't remember. So when I was when I was younger, like kids' brains are amazing. You know, if you have traumatic experiences when you're kids, your brain will repress those memories
Mhm.
because it'll be too much for you to handle.
Yeah.
So I had like repressed memories of abuse when I was younger, and they started coming out in my dreams when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I started just getting these nightmares, and I'm like, where
Mm.
is this coming from? And it was just so real, it was so real. So I actually went to a therapist, told the therapist, and then, this whole thing blew up, and it come to find out it was all true. It was all true, but I had repressed those memories. So just like a storage
Right.
card, everything you have, everything you see, everything your body goes through. I mean, you hold that in your
Yeah.
body.
So it's not repressed as in people think about, because people think they repress consciously. No, it's your
Mhm.
body going into freeze.
Yeah.
Disassociation
Exactly.
to survive the
Exactly.
event. Actually, if you look
Exactly.
at and I love how they start to sprinkle these things and these topics throughout shows, because I'm big on shows and
Mhm.
seeing things that art imitates life.
Mhm.
The Punisher season 2. There's a woman on there who's a soldier
Mhm.
who went through horrific thing in war, and she actually had like a identity disorder. Really was just it's just disassociation and going to
Mm-hmm.
freeze to
Yeah.
protect you from the
Right.
horrific
Yeah.
nature of the event.
Mm.
So freeze is again numbs you out, disassociates.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, those things that's happening,
Right.
you
Right.
don't feel them. Like your body
Right.
literally will create opiates to
Yeah.
numb you out,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So now, but if you don't discharge,
Right. Right. And address and
if you
get it
don't
out.
discharge and get that out of the body, like
Yeah.
animals in the wild do, we
Mm-hmm.
have that natural mechanism as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then it stays
Mm-hmm.
stuck in there, and then guess what? All these people coming to us for years
Mm-hmm.
all have disturbed sleep because they have dysregulated nervous systems.
Yeah.
And if you have a dysregulated nervous system, you're even burning through your other minerals
Everything.
faster.
Everything. Nutrients. Everything in your body you're burning through.
Mhm.
And you can't, and your absorption rate
Absorption sucks.
Sucks. Because
All
if you're,
this,
it's too much. I mean, stress,
Mhm.
stress is a mofo.
yeah.
It'll jack you all the way up. And I don't even know what the ratios are, but I really wonder how many people in America get good sleep. Like,
I read something some years ago was talking about sleep deprivation, and a number was over 40%. But of
Mm.
course, when we talk about these numbers, it's not like you're polling everybody,
right. Yeah.
But during the pandemic too, I remember on Facebook somebody said like, "Oh, I'm like everybody's talking about their nightmares. They're spiked." I
Mm.
say,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
Yeah.
Or they said they're dreaming. Their dreams have intensified. Their dreams have become more vivid. I'm like, yeah, we're in one big stimulus response loop,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happened when COVID happened and shutdown happened? The stimulus decreased.
Right. So now you got more space.
Now you got more space and your brain starts to process and everything seems more vivid.
Right.
What happens when you come out of a float tank? Your senses are heightened.
Right. You can see colors more
Because
brightly.
stimulus
Noises
restricted-
are louder. Right.
restricted environmental
Yeah.
stimulation therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So the pandemic became almost like rest therapy for
Right,
us. It
right.
forced us all to shut down, and people didn't know why their dreams are so vivid and
Right.
why their nightmares was happening. It's because
Right.
your bodies now has opportunity to process.
To process. You're not on 10 and you're getting into REM sleep finally, probably. And people probably were hardly getting into REM sleep before.
No.
I mean,
No.
because deep sleep happens at the beginning half of your night,
Mm.
and REM sleep happens, towards the end of your sleep.
Oh, really? So it's reverse. It's not
Yeah.
like REM sleep then deep sleep.
No,
It's
right.
deep sleep
It's
then
deep
REM
sleep,
sleep.
then REM sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, which always sucks for me too because I like to wake up early in the morning.
Mm.
Sometimes I'll wake up at like 5 in the morning. I'll look at my Aura score and I'm
Yeah.
like, dang, I only got like 10 minutes of REM. I got to go back to sleep, get some more REM.
Yeah.
But I choose to do that, and then I'll wake up and I'll feel so much better.
Mm.
My brain is just so much clearer. But it's just so important to
And then in the spiritual community, this thing called ascension symptoms, and we're like, oh, we're all waking up at 3:00 in the morning, no, that's called adrenal fatigue.
adrenal fatigue.
That's not
Yeah.
ascension symptoms. You're suffering from adrenal fatigue. Your cortisol, your whole nervous
Yeah.
system is all dysregulated. And one of the
Mhm.
studies for grounding,
Mhm.
they showed you that the cortisol levels would actually normalize.
Mhm.
Cortisol is not bad.
No.
Now we
no, you
use
need
these words
cortisol.
like they're
Right,
bad.
right,
Like
no,
none of these
no.
things are bad.
No,
It's
no,
just when
cortisol,
it's
you
out
need
of
that.
balance.
Right. Exactly.
But your cortisol levels start to normalize when it's
Mhm.
time to get up in the morning.
Mhm.
But people's cortisol levels, when you're not grounded, when you are stressed, when you do have a dysregulated nervous system, it's spiking at the wrong
At the
time.
wrong time, so it's
Spiking
waking
at
you
3:00
up
in the
3 o'clock in
morning.
the morning. Right. And that's also important. You shouldn't sleep like a couple hours, at least 3 hours before you go to sleep, or eat. I mean,
Oh,
you
eat.
shouldn't eat 3
Mm.
hours because then you got to think about it.
Your body's not digesting, right?
Exactly. Well, no, it's digesting, but it's digesting while it's supposed to be resting.
Right. It's
So
it's
now-
performing a task.
Yeah, exactly. When really you're supposed to be
Right.
getting in those deep levels of relaxation and rest your
Yeah.
body, so your body can detoxify,
And
not process freaking food.
well, that same statement, I would venture to say that same statement is about what you watch.
Yeah.
I was watching for whatever reason, this was years ago, man, when Netflix really first came on.
Yeah.
They put all the Law and Order SVU series on, like all 10 seasons.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I started watching Law and Order SVU, and I would watch it at night, like 9:00. Man, people was getting raped in my dreams.
Oh man.
Because that whole Law and Order SVU is all about rape, really.
Oh, I don't know.
And
I've
it started
never watched
popping up in my dreams. I was watching Dexter too, and that's popping
Ooh,
up, and I was
Dexter.
like, yo,
it. Yeah,
I
that's
can't
weird.
watch stuff
Yeah.
before I go to sleep
No.
because it's gonna show up.
Yeah. And you got to think like all these things that we don't even consciously realize that we're taking in. I mean, it's all showing up. It's
Yeah.
all showing up.
Yeah. It's always showing up.
Yeah.
It's showing up in your day-to-day behavior. You know,
Yep.
even you think about psychology, people don't psychoanalyze me. It's like, no, but you need to know your own behavior.
Right.
Everything is a pattern of your behavior and your past and your future projection.
Yeah.
Because that's what anxiety is.
Right.
I used to project all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I could have a panic attack about something that's gonna happen a week
Right.
next week.
Right. Right.
Ain't even there yet.
Yeah.
That's how my body was so charged that just even the thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're having panic attacks, your body has a large amount of unresolved mental, emotional energy stuck up in there.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And over the years, I just dissipated that energy out. But one thing that sets you on the way, again, I know that what we do works at inception when what? When a person says, I'm sleeping better. But I also know that it's working when a person says, I slept like crap last night. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know you're moving energy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you're bringing up emotion that you haven't addressed.
Yeah.
That
So
you need to address.
either or,
yeah,
it's still good. And I still
Yeah.
know, like, oh, I have a headache and those things. Like, those are just detoxification systems from the lymphatic system starting to move better,
Right.
the blood starting to move
yeah.
better.
Think about all the toxins that you're processing. You know, that's not going to feel that great. You know, you have
Right.
your healing response that is not that fun.
No, healing responses are not fun.
No.
But
they're
if
necessary.
you want to get to that other
Other
side
side.
of feeling good,
yeah,
like
you gotta go
imagine
through
you
it.
was like, I didn't know I could feel this good. I
Yeah.
don't think I'll never forget that statement from you because you were like that day. You was like, it was like you were on a drug when you weren't on a drug.
Yeah, euphoria. Real live euphoria. I mean, think about it. Like, man, I had never been sober for more than 30 days since I was like 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Since you were 11 years
11
old.
years old.
Right.
11 for more than 30 days until I really quit smoking weed. Not that I even
Yeah.
think weed is bad. I just had to do
No.
it for myself, you know.
No, it's
but-
everything about moderation
Yeah,
again. You
right.
know, like
Right.
they demonize marijuana, but look at alcohol. Somebody
Marijuana
had
grows out of the ground, like except for the chemical.
yeah,
weed
that
these days,
chemical.
but-
Yeah.
and that's not good. But
Well, even chemical alcohol, you know,
I mean, alcohol is just
sulfates and
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible for you. It's terrible for you. Alcohol is just a toxin that you're pushing into your body, like that your liver has to now take time away from processing the toxicity of the normal world that we
Yeah.
live in today to process the alcohol. I mean, it's just
I never really drank much. I mean, I would go out here and there and have a drink. And when that one drink or that two drink start taking me days to recover from, I was like, this ain't even worth it.
no.
This little moment of going into this place of, because really what you're doing is feeling relaxed.
Right.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
That little 1-2 day or a couple hours of feeling relaxed
Yeah.
was not worth a day or 2 days of recovery.
Yo, you know what's so crazy too? Now that I think about it, I just thought this. Like, I would have such bad hangovers to the point where I would be like, everything out of my stomach was gone, even the bile. So I wouldn't even have to get out of my bed. I'd just be heaving because I know nothing would come
yeah.
out. But I would feel so horrible to the point of death. I would be praying to die. That's how bad I would feel. But I would go right back and do it again. And people do that. Like daily, weekly. I used to do that all the time.
Well,
That's pain.
the pain,
That's serious
but you're
pain.
not going to change until the pain
Right.
of staying the same
Same.
becomes greater than the
than
pain,
the pain of change.
change itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you knew that was a way that you were going to be to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And even though on the back end feeling horrible was there, like, listen, but I know I can feel good for
and that's
that
right,
for that
for
couple
hours.
moments.
Right.
And that's just what it is. We're
Man,
just
that's
trying to move
sad.
from pain to pleasure, right?
Right.
And that's all you were trying to do, and that's all we're all trying to do.
Right.
You know?
Right.
As
It's
people.
so sad. It's just so sad because people like that, when I was in that mind frame, never in a million years could someone have told me like, hey, if you sober up and you start, taking care of your body and your mind, like you're going to feel greater than you've ever felt ever. I wouldn't have believed that.
I told you that, but
I know. And obviously I didn't believe you.
but I don't think I ever came to you and really came and said it in that way for sure, because I was trying to get there myself.
Right.
I was trying to feel better myself.
Right.
But now that I'm definitely here, people who come to us, I look at them and I'm like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like this is what you need to
Right.
do.
This is what you need. Boom, boom, boom.
And people who come with the sleeping issues, and they're trying everything but the necessary things, Oh, so I bought a white noise machine. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I listen to this meditative. They have these apps that you can listen to of people like talking you to sleep.
There's
And I'm
mixed
like,
reviews about that.
that's not going to balance your nervous
No,
system.
it's not. And there's mixed reviews about that, about how
Really?
it affects your sleep. Yeah.
Oh, talk about that.
Your sleep, like in deep sleep, you have these waves. Your brain produces these waves, and like it disrupts some of the deep.
You talking about your delta waves?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. It disrupts that. But think about it, noise.
Yeah.
You're taking in stimulus.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. When we looked at all the brain maps, I mean, again, you got 7 different frequencies. You got delta, you have theta, you have alpha, you have beta, you have gamma. Delta is deep sleep cycle, right?
Yep.
Theta is more subconscious activity, meditation. Then you have alpha, that feel good frequency. So when those people are doing those sleep type of things, right? You're trying to go into a deeper sleep state, which is delta, but you're listening to something that's more on an alpha frequency. Yeah, it's gonna disturb that.
Yeah. It makes all the sense in the world. All the
Yeah.
sense. I mean, they said pink noise actually is okay, but
Pink
Pink
noise?
noise, yeah,
I've never
there's
heard
pink
of that
noise.
before. What's that?
I think it sounds kind of like white noise, but it's just I think a different
They got
frequency.
a color in it?
Yeah, I don't know. I've listened.
Pink noise. Shh, pink noise. Is that what pink noise sounds
No,
like?
man, it
It
sounds
says
kinda-
pink in there.
it sounds like white noise, but I mean honestly, I don't think that I think that the body and brain. I mean, when did they have that back in the day in ancient times? Like, ooh, I'm gonna put my pink noise. I mean,
No.
like you should just be able to get good sleep naturally.
But rain,
yeah,
that-
waves, water.
if you're gonna listen to
right?
something, listen to something that's more nature
Natural, right.
and
Yeah,
natural. Listen
yeah.
to some dude voice or some woman's voice. That ain't really,
Right.
And
yeah.
then too, again, like, look, I'm not gonna demonize anybody who need to use the tools to get to where they need to go, but it's about this. This is what I'm always about. It ain't about good or bad. It's about resourceful and unresourceful.
And how do you feel? Like,
Right.
how do you feel?
And I want the most efficient and effective way to get to my goal.
Right.
That's why we use all the tools. I'm like, yo, like, I'll change stuff up. If I know it's something that's more efficient and effective, and I have,
Right.
I'm not using binaural beats anymore.
Right.
Because the system I have now is way more tailor made.
Well, let's talk about our systems. Like, what is your system to go to sleep at night? Like, what's your system? What do you do every night to go to sleep, to get good sleep? I have a very specific system.
Shoot, I get into bed and lay my head down. That's my system.
I mean, I do things though. So I do at least 30 minutes of red light therapy before I go to sleep, and that always. And I've noticed this when I don't do that, my HRV isn't good. So I notice like my HRV is way better when I do red light therapy. And then on top of that, I will take these REM sleep pills, which have vitamin D in it. It has a little bit of melatonin, a couple other things, and then I will take my magnesium. I'll take my colostrum.
You do a lot.
Yeah, I do. I'm very systematic.
Yeah, I forgot you're very. But now that you start saying those things, I do have a process.
Yeah. So
but I don't
process.
even think of it as a process because it's so normalized for me.
Yeah.
One thing that I do, lion's mane.
Yeah.
Man, I took lion's mane last night.
Yeah.
I took lion's mane last night. Rask in my dream. Man,
What up, Raz?
You're in my dream, like. Yeah, man, my dreams are very vivid.
Yeah,
when I do
so you've
lion's mane.
noticed that. So sometimes though, I wish they would do an actual case study on this, which they don't have any case studies to say that actual lion's mane increases REM or helps your dreams. They don't have any specific science. But personally, I mean, I've noticed sometimes I get crazy dreams after I take lion's mane. But like last night, for instance, I was listening to this podcast, that sleep podcast, Dave Asprey, and he was saying he takes 7 dropperfuls of the lion's
mane?
Of lion's mane, right before 7 dropperfuls.
Wait, 7 full dropperfuls?
Yeah, before he goes to sleep every single night. That's what he does. And
You
his
know,
said,
one full dose of lion's mane is 1 drop.
No, I think it's 3.
No.
I thought it was 3. I don't know.
1
Dave
milligram.
Asprey, he
1
be going
milligram
ham, though.
is so it takes you 1.5 to get there.
Oh, well, he
takes 7, but
but listen.
Yeah.
I took 7 last night because I'm
Really?
like, I want to see if this works.
What happened?
I got
Nothing?
20 minutes of REM sleep last night.
But see,
So
you can't.
I know
Dave
you can't.
Asprey
I know,
body
I
versus
know, my
you
body. Yeah, no, I
5
I mean
foot
I get it,
0.
but sometimes it works for me. Sometimes it doesn't. That's just moral of the story. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't consistently do red light therapy at night. I do
You
it every
should.
morning though.
Yeah, me too. Every
But I
morning.
just thought about it. What you just said just makes so much sense about doing red light at night versus the
Mm-hmm.
blue light. So that probably counteracts it. How long you do it for?
Yeah,
You
30
said 30
minutes, 30
minutes.
minutes to an
So
hour.
that resets. Would that reset?
Circadian rhythm.
Okay.
It just helps your circadian rhythm. But then also, like, I don't know, just you should test it with your wearable. See what your HRV does at night when you do red light therapy and when you don't. Because I swear to God, every single time I do red light therapy, my HRV is always always up,
Right.
always up.
So that, and then one thing that we do every night that's just is built into what we do is I ground. I'm grounded.
Every night. There is
And
not a night that I haven't been grounded.
and I use patches. I started doing more patches specifically because I've been working out and everything. I
Yeah.
put patches on like certain areas. Like if I work my traps, I'm gonna put patches there because I
Yeah.
feel congested in that area
Right.
specifically when you worked it because that lymph is just like congested.
Yeah.
And I would do that and I put on another lymph point on the back and I just wake up and I'll wake up and I'm able to take a deep breath. I know that like, yo,
Yeah.
this thing is working well.
Oh,
so
yeah. And whenever I work out, like I do a crazy leg workouts, I'll put them on the bottoms of my feet, on my K1 points on the bottoms of my
you
feet.
put the patches on there?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I swear I wake up zero, like soreness the next day.
Yeah.
And I noticed like the other night I actually worked out really hard. I didn't put them on my feet. I put it on my lymph point, on my stomach, and I didn't. My legs were a little bit sore still, and that was weird for me. So I think it really depends where you put the patches too, like how they really work for your body. But moral of the story, you should patch. You should be grounded every single night.
Yeah.
Every night.
So really good habits, and we can end on this note of good habits to use, and we mentioned quite a few, but magnesium is the one. And
Yep.
I'm not consistent with taking magnesium at night, but
Mhm.
I noticed that I've done it before, and I feel better. Vitamin D. I forget the woman's name who's a doctor who really talks about vitamin D and how they see an increase with sleep with doing vitamin D at night as well. So that with magnesium along lion's mane.
Colostrum is good at night.
Really? Colostrum is good for your gut
for
too,
your
right?
gut. Yeah, it's good if you have leaky gut. It helps rebuild your gut lining. So I take it
Yeah.
every night. Colostrum is
I need to
amazing.
start doing that as well. We always be getting up. We always be talking about this. What you doing now? Like we
know.
be hacking our stuff. Oh, you doing that? I'm gonna try
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And red light
Yeah.
therapy.
Mm.
That helps. I swear it helps. And when I don't do it, I
Yeah.
notice it.
Oh,
when I
just
don't.
cut out too. If you don't have red light therapy, the devices can be kind of expensive to some people, but they worth the investment.
Right.
You
I
know.
mean, at night I turn my phone on airplane mode most of the time. I definitely, if I don't put it on airplane mode, I'm putting it on. I turn the Wi-Fi off. Because
Right.
that can disrupt us. I mean, we can't just. Our eyes are not built to see those magnetic waves,
No.
but they're all over the place and they're hitting us
Absolutely.
at all times. But we just can't see because we only see less than 1% of the light spectrum.
Right.
So, but they're definitely affecting us. So you better believe if you have your phone right next to your head and the Wi-Fi is still on, you jacked up. Just saying.
You jacked up.
you jacked
You
up.
are. And you can augment a lot of that just by grounding.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grounding.
You know.
That's probably basis most important anyways.
All these studies are done, all these sleep studies and things of that nature, but nobody's talking
Grounded.
about how they're grounded
Yeah.
in the study. So really,
Their
the
baseline is
studies are
off.
going to be off.
Yeah.
Because
Because everybody's fluids are doing something different.
Yo, listen,
Yeah.
you said something so important. You said in 1940s, right? You read that study in 1940s. We didn't even put to make that correlation.
Yeah, 7.9 hours average.
Well, duh.
Wow.
When
right.
did we start?
1960s, 70s.
Synthetic
material.
shoes? I thought it was
Yes.
the 50s.
No, 1960s.
But they didn't start grounding houses until when?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. That was later.
But even the synthetic shoes, you gotta imagine, you still were sleeping in a house on a ungrounded bed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, right. Damn.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, it probably all correlates too, though, because less tech, no Wi-Fi, 1940s,
Yeah.
no electromagnetic frequencies that's, messing your bioelectric being up, So, it probably all correlates, but that's deep, though.
So two big tips. balance your nervous system and
Deal
get
with
grounded.
your trauma, right? Deal with your trauma.
And then,
Get
do
grounded.
those things, take out everything in an environment that can be a hindrance to, the vessel that's blocking the vessel from getting good rest.
Yes.
Stop listening to rappers. Their life expectancy is like 30 to 35 years old.
Ooh wee.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Well, a lot of them die from, being killed, not necessarily from sleep deprivation. But
Killed,
again, you
drugs,
got to think, if you're promoting sleep deprivation,
Yeah.
more than likely you don't care about a lot of other things in your health as well.
Right.
And
right.
your intentions
Yeah.
are really thrown off,
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
we all love hip hop. We all grew up in that, but
Love
I was on
hip-hop.
I was on that thing too for a moment, man. In my early 20s,
Yeah.
like that grind.
Oh, me too. I just got off that. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I've been on that my whole life.
You got off of that when?
Like probably 32. I'm
Yeah.
34.
When you first came and started working with us, I
I
was
know.
like,
You
listen.
were like, you gotta slow your ass down.
I was like, we
I
don't
was
work like
what?
that over here.
I know. I was like, what? What you need? What?
And and that would be crazy for people to hear that. Like, no, we don't work like that over here.
Mm.
And what I mean is, we don't move in anxiety. No.
Right.
You would be
Very
like, Dave, what I
intentional.
need to do today? I'm like, nothing.
Right.
Take the day off.
Yo, you
enjoy
and your mom,
life.
I remember this specific meeting. I was like, this was when I first started working with you guys. I'm sitting in the back office and I'm like, I don't have much to do this weekend. So, you guys can load me up with some stuff. What's up? And your mom was like, can you spend some time with your son? I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But that was coming from real estate, coming from chef industry. So, I mean, yeah, but there's our problem.
Well, again, we'll talk about this in the end, is I feel that, because even in my wellness state, and wanting to be slowed down, right, and believing it's important to be slowed down and doing the floating and everything of that nature, I didn't get an employee till about 10, 11 years in. And when I first got an employee, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to manage my time.
Right.
And then when we created Inception, I had a full staff,
Mm-hmm.
and I was still up there every day, still in the mix of everything. And I just finally decided that, you know what, I'm gonna go and try to chill.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard. It was hard for me to dial back and do that, because I felt like being unproductive was a sin.
Yeah, that's still
sin in
hard
my
for me.
body.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by that. I
Yeah.
felt like, because I was so sped up,
Yeah. Yeah.
that no amount of floating was going to do it.
Right. Right.
No, I just needed to reduce.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
no, that's.
during the pandemic, when everything slowed down even more, I actually picked up a video game. I played God of War. That thing is amazing, first of all. And I actually played it. And it took me a couple days, but we had so much time. You weren't calling me. You were painting your house and everything, right? And I slowed down where I was able to do something that I enjoyed without any guilt.
Yeah.
And
Guilt.
because my system has slowed down even more.
Right.
And when everything opened back up, I felt kind of depressed.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I do not want to go back to being sped up like that.
Right. Right.
So,
it's
but
rough. The guilt,
Yeah.
feeling like you're not, you're supposed to be doing something, but you're not doing enough.
right.
That's a daily battle for me. But
So you have to consciously, like, again, we've all been slowed down, but you have to consciously make efforts to reduce things, because you will get there by being efficient, doing more with less,
right, intentional.
and sharpening the saw. That's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. People hear me quote this book all the time because it's so simple, and it's like, keep it simple, stupid. In order to cut down a tree, do you keep using the same dull saw, or do you go and sharpen the saw? And how do we sharpen the saw? By resting. And one of the aspects of resting is sleep.
Yeah.
Till next time, guys.
Yes. Peace out.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Inner Wealth Podcast on EYL with David and Elisabeth. Theme song produced by Be Ready for West Coast Creations. I am Razcast, reminding you to take action, be proactive, be congruent, get out of the matrix, get your mind right. We've automated mental health at Inception. Join the movement. Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.